Think you've seen an amazing John Wall 360 layup? Think again. American Express is bringing basketball fans the epic journeys behind the All-Star moves. Go to youtube.com/American Express now and see the All-Star journeys behind the All-Star moves.
ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
It's the Herd on ESPN Radio, wherever you may be, however you may be listening. Thanks for making us part of your day, presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests via the Subway Fresh Take Hotline and simulcast again on ESPNU. I'm not really into life advice. Okay, occasionally I am. Here's the one piece of life advice I'll give today. It's not about being the life of the party. It's about being invited to the party. And we begin the show today. You ever heard of Peter O'Toole? He was nominated for 8 Oscars. He never won. You ever heard of Richard Burton? A great actor. Mom loved him. He was nominated for 7. He never won. Glenn Close, in my opinion, one of the best actors ever, nominated 6 times. Never won an Oscar. But if sports fans were asked, they would tell you Roberto Benigni, who's 1 for 1, is a better actor than Glenn Close. This is Roberto Benigni.
How can I'm not able to express all my gratitude. Now my body is in tumult.
He's better than Glenn Close? Hilary Swank's 2 for 2, so she's better than Marlon Brando, who's 2 for 8. He was nominated 8 times. So sports fans want to tell me that Joe Montana, because he never lost, will be better than Brady if Brady wins 4, but he's been to 6. But Joe was perfect. Let me give you a number. Joe Montana watched more Super Bowls from the couch than Tom Brady. I never understood this. Michael Jordan never lost a finals. Yeah, Magic lost 3, but he was at 9. It's not about being the life of the party. It's about being invited to the party. Tom Brady's absolutely the best quarterback ever if he wins this game. Absolutely. Done. Nothing against Joe Montana. Joe Montana watched lots of Super Bowls on the couch. Tom's watching fewer and fewer as they extend his career. Like, I don't get sports fans. I don't get you on this thing. So Hilary Swank, 2 for 2, is better than De Niro, 2 for 7, because she never lost. Who do you think's a better actor? Julia Roberts, by the way, was 1 for 4. I like her better than Hilary Swank. Like, this is something about American sports fans I don't get. Society confuses me. I'm supposed to believe Tom Brady is less than Joe Montana because David Tyree, with super glue in his helmet, made this play?
And he takes the snap under pressure, avoids the rush, and he's going to fight out of it. Still fights out of it. Now throws it deep downfield. Wide open Tyree, who makes the catch.
What? So Jim Kelly 0 for 4 is inferior to Joe Flacco 1 for 1? What? Huh? We got to celebrate getting to the NBA Finals. We got to celebrate getting to the Super Bowl. Brady's now in his 6th. He's 2 passes from 5 for 5. He's the best quarterback ever if he wins this game Sunday. May not. Think he will. I do. In fact, don't think it's that close. New England heavy. But I got to tell you, we are just in society seeking perfect. It doesn't exist. Come on, Michael Jordan couldn't get to the playoffs for years. Opening rant brought to you by Regis. New way to work. Call 1-800-OFFICES, 1-800-OFFICES. Drew Brees will be on our show today. Dan Marino's going to be on our show today. My guy Greg Cosell is going to be on the show today. Arian Foster, one of my favorite guys in the league who used to hate me, may still but won't say it publicly, will be on the show today. Tomorrow we have Rex Ryan on the show. So yesterday was sort of the low energy day. Now Thursday and Friday, next couple of days now, All the stars come into town. All the energy ramps up for the Super Bowl. And, yes, I like New England, and I like them comfortably in this game. I don't think it's close. I don't think it's close. I've been saying this for a couple days. I think it's going to be a 14 to a 17-point blowout.
Want more of the Herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Welcome back. It's the Herd on ESPN Radio. Is that you two? Is that you two you're playing today? My uncool staff is bringing it today with a little U2. See, you're in the U2 generation.
Yeah, I love U2.
So now how old are you? 30 what?
36. I just turned.
So you're kind of you're almost.
Yeah, I'm U2. I'm Pearl Jam. I'm Metallica.
You're a Pearl Jam guy. I'm from Seattle.
Yeah.
Nirvana.
Absolutely. Yes.
Really?
Oh yeah.
So you
know what? I'm an '80s guy. I think I was really born in the wrong generation.
We all were. Nobody wants to admit they listen to Vanilla Ice. I rocked it.
Yeah, I'm '80s.
So you're Bon Jovi?
Yes, Bon Jovi, absolutely.
Not Quiet Riot.
No, I mean the one-hit wonders of the '80s.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Listen, '80s on 8 or just slacker '80s radio.
So how old were you in 1988? You're a kid. You're in Texas.
So 88. I'm 9 years old. 1979.
And you are 8-track almost. I mean, we're just getting into cassettes.
Yeah. Again, I was 9 years old, so I wasn't rolling with the age. I mean, I was cassette tapes and VHS. I mean, that was my era.
And you had no. See, I was always a Bon Jovi guy.
Yeah.
To this day, you know they're the second biggest touring group. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yeah. They're the second biggest touring group in the country right now.
Really?
Bon Jovi.
Here's the crazy thing. I've never seen Bon Jovi in concert.
Dude, let me tell you something.
I need to do that. That's on my list. Because I saw Metallica 2 years ago. I saw Pearl Jam last year. Like, I'm slowly kind of knocking them.
Let me tell you something about Bon Jovi's audience. I know you're happily married, and so am I.
Yeah.
Girls like Bon Jovi.
Oh, yeah. He's
Women love.
Yeah.
This is going off the rails, but I'm totally into this conversation.
It's the hair.
You think so?
It's the hair, yeah. If you or I had that hair.
God, it's almost
Could
parted.
you imagine?
It's almost parted perfectly in the middle.
Yeah.
Like he's the only guy that has that hair and is still playing.
He can get away with it.
Yeah, like most guys, their hair gets long and everybody's like, dude, get a haircut.
Yeah.
Like Bon Jovi. I mean, honestly, I had an ex-girlfriend that once went to dinner with him, and she said he's the best-looking human I've ever seen.
Yeah. Imagine if I took that helmet off and I could just kind of wave that hair.
I'd like you more.
Yeah.
I would. As a sportscaster, I'd like you more. So yesterday, I'm talking to Peter King. And that was a weird topic, but I love it. So I'm talking to Peter King, and I said, do you realize the tipping point of the NFL is Drew Brees? If a team doctor in Miami says yes, Nick Saban never goes to Alabama, post-Katrina, the Saints aren't the franchise, maybe move to San Antonio. There was strong consideration. You and Sean Payton and the momentum keep them. The Patriots don't dominate the AFC East. They're not winning 9, 10 straight titles. It's you and Nick. Take me back to Miami and the physical.
Yeah.
Maybe is it uncomfortable for you to talk about?
No, not at all. Because on the surface, at that time, 2006, you would say if a player's choices were Miami and New Orleans, the obvious choice is Miami. Right?
People forget. Pre-you, Saints were kind of struggling.
Well, and it's post-Katrina, so there was so much doubt as to what was going to happen with the team, what was happening with the city, just all those doubts. And yet here was Miami coming off a 9-7 season in which they'd won the last 7 in a row. Nick Saban had them rolling. Great defensive mind.
Yes.
They're bringing me in to be the quarterback. So here I am on the offense side. He's on the defense side. But my experience down there was literally it was all physical. I went through 6 hours of physicals while I was there. I went and saw a nerve, I guess we call it a neurologist or nerve specialist or something like that, who stuck these needles in my shoulder that I swear were this long, just to check my nerve endings to make sure I wasn't having any nerve damage. Then I did the contrast saline solution MRI for like 2 hours. So I remember sitting in the MRI tube for 2 hours, and my arm was just throbbing because they just injected with all the saline. And I was just sitting there going, what are they? Like, they've talked to Dr. Andrews. They've seen my MRIs. They know the results of my surgery. They know that I'm on my way to recovery. Is there a risk? Yes, there is.
Of course there is.
Really, all you can do is talk to the doctor and then know me as the person and make the decision off of that, whether you think I can come back or not.
When you left that office that day, Was there almost a listen? Was there a resentment?
I tell you, at the end of the day, it came down to this: the Saints wanted me there. They wanted me there. They had so much confidence in me and my ability to come back. And listen, I was only 2 months, post-op, and I'm a super confident person and super glasses half full and positive. But I mean, did I have my doubts or just a little bit of stress about it? Yes, I did. And I would say the Saints instilled a lot of confidence in me, knowing that, man, there's a team out here that wants me, that believes in my ability to come back.
So they've made you a better player.
Yes. Just Sean Payton looking me in the eye and saying, you're my guy. I'm going to bring you in here. There's no doubt that you're going to come back and physically you're going to be 100%. And we're going to put this offense together. As I'm going to put things in it that I know you're good at, that you want to do, that work to your strengths, and we're going to build this thing together. I mean, how many head coaches come in as their first head coaching job and say that to the quarterback?
Because you may not get a second one.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's amazing. The perception is you saved New Orleans. You're actually acknowledging that New Orleans elevated you.
Absolutely.
It is an amazing city. New Orleans post-Katrina, I mean, if you look in the history of this country, there's not much to compare it to. Was there ever a moment post-Katrina that you thought, this is a lot? I want to play football. This is a lot.
Yeah, it was overwhelming. We couldn't even we went to training camp for 5 weeks that first year. It was kind of like an old school training camp where they used to go for 6 weeks and play 6 preseason games and all that stuff. So we just kind of went to Millsaps College in the middle of Jackson, Mississippi, just kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and we bonded. I mean, it was like, it was kind of this us against the world mentality a little bit, and yet we were just being sharpened right there. And we knew that when we went back to New Orleans, that here was a city that was just, they needed us. They needed us to give them hope and to give them inspiration and to make them feel like we can come back stronger. But it wasn't pressure. That wasn't pressure for us.
It was love.
It was love. It was motivation. It was strength. And so our fans strengthened us throughout. And the more that we won, the more the momentum and just the vibe was unbelievable down there that first year.
Most guys come on to pitch stuff, and we got talking, so I want to make sure I tell you, Old Spice, Fresher Collection, 3 natural scents, Timber, Amber, Citron. By the way, I use that.
Timber's my favorite.
I think I like Citron.
Yeah, Citron.
So I remember seeing a 60 Minutes piece on you, and I thought it was so funny. So, because you're really competitive. I told you, I remember the time you played Wisconsin in college. Yes, you played Wisconsin a night game and threw for 14,000 yards. And I'm a big college football fan.
Yeah.
So we talked about that. So after I talked to you, I went back and with my staff, I said, I got to go back and look at that game because I remember playing. You threw for like 600 yards.
Well, 1998, yeah. We set an NCAA record for attempts and completions.
Like today,
we threw it 83 times. We ran 105 plays in the game, which now for maybe the Oregon offense, you'd say, okay, that's like ho-hum. That's just every other Saturday,
this was
right?
1998.
So this was back when it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust, Big Ten football. We're just gonna hammer it up in there for 60 plays a game. We ran 100 and was 105 plays.
Okay, go to YouTube.
108 plays.
Go to YouTube because I did.
Yeah.
Go to YouTube and look up Drew Brees against Wisconsin.
Yeah, we threw 83 times.
When you look at this game, I've said this, that we always talk about pre-snap stuff. How much time do I have? 1 minute. I'm not in a huddle. I don't look at film. Ball snap, end of play, 7.5 seconds.
Yeah.
I think Russell Wilson's one of the smartest players I've ever seen. When you look at him, what do you see?
Yeah. I see a guy who's always ready to create. He can drop back in the pocket, and he's got a very strong arm. He's a great decision-making ability, but he is always ready to get outside the pocket, extend a play, and make plays with his legs. And that could be running the football, or that could just be buying time and then finding an open guy down the field. He's one of the best in the league, I'd say, along with Aaron Rodgers at being able to do that.
You don't run now. You were very athletic. You're a great baseball player. You are a really
I'm a great ping pong player.
You are a really good athlete. You could have played Division I other stuff, but you have kind of settled into, I'm going to throw from the pocket. Do you ever watch Russell and think, I could have a little?
Yeah, like there's times I get on myself and say, yeah, gosh, you could run for some more first downs, or you could have extended that play.
Why don't you?
Well, honestly, that's something that I think about often. I mean, these are things I need to work on.
By the way, Brady this year. Did you know? Now, Brady can't move like you. He's kind of a stiff. But Brady this year at the end of the year, said, I'm not helping my team. Because I see you and I think, well, you're a great athlete.
Yeah.
So you do. You think about it.
No, I absolutely do. And I tell myself I'm a great athlete, and you know what, I should be able to get out there and make people miss, extend plays, buy time. I do that in the pocket, but it's another thing to, hey, there's really nothing there. Get outside the pocket and really extend it and wait for somebody to get open, or man, you got to go get the first down. And there's games you go into and say, hey, this team's key coverage on 3rd and short is this. You might not have a lot of places to go with the ball, so be ready to run for 3 first downs in this game. You know,
so that's what you think going into a game?
Yeah, absolutely. So when that situation comes around, say, hey, be patient, be ready to take off and run.
I like New England in the game. How about you? You NFC guy?
Here's what I like about New England. You know, their last 2 Super Bowls they've gone to and lost, in which they were favorites. I have a hard time believing they come into a 3rd one and not be, you know, have their best stuff. They're going to have their best stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Seattle's kind of a team of destiny. You know, I mean, the way that they won that last game against Green Bay was
ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it.
So you got 2 teams coming in with a ton of confidence and a ton of belief that, you know, it's their year. It is going to be a great game.
You won a Super Bowl on a team like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know that feeling. It's a good feeling.
Sure it is.
That's a great feeling.
It's great seeing you, man.
All right, Colin, you too, man.
Only get to see him about once a year. Super Bowl champ, Old Spice, Fresher Collection, 3 natural scents, Timber, Amber, Cintron. Back in a second, Scottsdale Herd on ESPN.
You're in the Herd, the Thundering Herd podcast.
Generally speaking, I think I'm pretty good predicting big games. Last year, I took Denver over Seattle. Everybody felt Seattle had the better roster, but we all kind of felt like, Peyton Manning, Russell Wilson, big game. Last year, a lot of people whiffed. And Seattle was, played downhill. Seattle was just unbelievable. Seattle had won a tip pass at home against San Francisco, proving that San Francisco would have won the Super Bowl had they gotten there as well as Seattle. They were both better than Denver at the end of the year. San Francisco would have beaten anybody in that league last year in the Super Bowl except Seattle. I'm from the Pacific Northwest. I'm not anti-Seattle. Fans today, if you pick a team, think you hate the other team. I think New England's going to win convincingly, not because I hate Seattle. But let's be honest, if you're a Seahawk fan, you're lucky to be here. You're lucky to be here. New England, if you take away the last game against Buffalo when they played subs, has boat raced 90% of the teams they've played the last 3 months. Both teams can play defense. Seattle's is better, but both play defense. Both have good special teams. One's got a great offense. New England's averaging 35 a game. Seattle's got an untalented receiving core. Their top 3 receivers now are all undrafted. Golden Tate gone, Richardson hurt, Percy Harvin gone, Luke Wilson tight end, Doug Baldwin. The corners for New England are outstanding. Outside of Seattle, best in the league. Seattle doesn't have a Gronk. They don't have a Julian Edelman. They don't have a Tom Brady sitting in the pocket throwing darts. That's not what Russell Wilson does. Seattle is a completely limited offense. They struggled at home against Carolina and Green Bay to move the rock. New England's defense is better than both, and now it's a neutral field. I really like New England in the game. I know Seattle's defense is better. Seattle's offense right now, you know what it is? Russell Wilson makes something happen with your feet. Well, what about Marshawn Lynch? New England's going to jam that box because Doug Baldwin's not beating them over the top. Right now, Seattle's offense is the weak unit in this game. They are. What about last year? You had Percy Harvin. Had Golden Tate. That was a better team last year. And this is not anti-Seattle, but they're lucky to be here. Seattle needed a historically bizarre comeback to win at home. They needed a fake field goal to score, to get the ball rolling, and a couple of lucky bounces. That's not anti-Seattle. That's just what happened. And New England's got 2 things working for it. 2 huge emotional advantages. One, everybody's calling him a cheater. You don't deserve to be here. Belichick has been banging on that for 2 weeks. And for the 3rd time, fire alarm at the Patriots Hotel. They keep getting woken up. 3rd time, fire alarm set off, Patriots Hotel. So people here are screwing with them. I think New England's going to come out hair on fire. I think they're going to score early. Seattle's going to be on their heels. Seattle will be forced to throw, which they're not great when it's on somebody else's terms. Marshawn Lynch will be taken out of the game because New England's going to be up 13-0, 17-0. You can't run Marshawn Lynch. I think it could get ugly. When's the last time Seattle lost by? When's the last time Denver got blown out until Seattle last year? You can't look. When's the last time? Folks, you can't worry about when's the last time. Strange things happen in big games. I mean, Denver got smoked last year. Anybody predict that? When's the last time that happened? So that's kind of my takeaway. I think New England wins, and I think they win comfortably. ESPN Radio presented by Progressive Insurance. We're comparing rates. Get the best deal, even if it's not with us. Saving you time and money. That's Progressive. Call or click today. Oh, God. I just got this story. I usually love millennials. I back you in almost every instance. Harris poll came out yesterday and said 10% of millennials think video gaming is a sport. 10% of millennials, 18 to 30-year-olds, think that's a sport. It gets worse. Older millennials now keep moving back in with their parents. This story today. Job creation has picked up a little, but the Census Bureau reports now that young adults, 25 to 34, increasingly are moving back with mom and dad. Well, millennials, maybe if you didn't think competitive eating and Pac-Man was a sport, wouldn't have to move in with the parents. Nerds! Man, I'm selling my millennial stock. I really am. It's really greatly disappointing. So you're moving home, playing video games, watching competitive eating, and eating all the mac and cheese mom made. Some life. Supported millennials for the last 5 years. I am completely Seacrest out on them. Completely Seacrest out. I saw this morning. I thought this was strange. Anybody else think this was strange? I'm not sure if you've heard this. Only 41% of Americans. This was shocking to me. Only 41% of Americans think the Patriots cheated. That's low, right? Like if you would have told me how many people think the Patriots cheat, I'd be like 80% of America. 41% think the Patriots cheated. Football fans. Now, football fans, right, everybody hates New England? According to the survey done, public policy polling, only 50% of football fans think they cheated. So we're making this out to be HGH. You know what this is? It's George Brett's pine tar bat at Yankee Stadium. Half of you thought it was outrageous. Half of you thought, stick it to him. Those were Yankee fans. But that pine tar incident, really think it was cheating? Really? Look at George Brett's reaction. Look at Belichick's reaction to Deflategate. You're telling us, it's pine tar. It's pine tar. Spygate, by the way, is like 99%. This, it's coin flip. What it tells me is when Brady wins the Super Bowl Sunday, you're not going to hold this mostly against him. Now, as I say that, it should also be noted that about 80% of Americans stick with a political party that they initially choose. So people tend to not move off their opinions. Like if you think they cheated, you think they cheated. If you don't, I was on a plane a couple of weeks ago after the Cowboys lost to Green Bay, and there was that Des Bryant catch. And the guy, I sit next to this guy, and he's a sports fan. He goes, that was a catch. That I know who you are. That was a catch. And I was like, well, not actually according to the rules, but I don't want to argue with you. It's like 9:30. I want to see my family. Let's make this flight fast as possible. But it's like, dude, it was ruled not a catch by everybody in the league who's ever officiated. So it is not a catch. Dude, that was a catch. So you're not going to get fans to move off. The guys who think Belichick cheats think he cheats. The guys who don't. You're not going to move people off their opinion. Sports fans, this is what they believe. They call radio shows to argue it, even if it's been validated or invalidated. That's just sports fans. Arian Foster and Dan Marino coming up. Arian Foster used to hate me. May still. You know, Bill Simmons at one point couldn't stand me. And look at our relationship now.
Interesting.
Rock solid.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Arian Foster, 4-time Pro Bowler, rushing champ several years ago, is joining us now. You ever whitewater rafted?
Nah, I'm okay with that.
I'd strongly encourage it. I didn't think I'd like it. It's never going to happen for you?
I mean, water, and I just that's not our domain, man. We're land creatures. I'm gonna stay where it's dry, man. You know.
I totally get it.
It always kills me when they say shark attack. I'm like, he's not attacking. He's just doing what sharks do. They eat things.
Yeah, you're in their space.
It's not an attack. It's a feeding.
You'll jump in a pool. You'll go, but you're not going to go into. You're not doing ocean stuff.
No, I'm not a big ocean guy, man.
Totally get it. So years ago, you and I had a falling out for an hour.
We did.
Then we embraced.
We good, baby.
We good.
We're good.
His wife is clothing line Kovu, which I'll talk about in a second. I knew it was funny because when I heard your wife had a clothing line, I'm like, yeah, you'd marry a smart person.
I had to. She's smarter than me, actually.
That's good. They're all smarter than me. Deep down, they're all smarter than me. I said when a season ends for you. And it's funny because both Seattle and New England are shockingly healthy.
Definitely.
It's incredible.
I didn't think about that.
I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
End of a year. Take me to what most teams feel like. What did you feel like week 15, 16 physically?
Oh, it's your body. I mean, especially as a running back, your body's beat up. You know, you kind of get special, especially as a veteran running back. You kind of get special treatment in practice where you don't take as much reps and you don't take as much of the physical pounding throughout the year.
So the coach is pretty good about that.
Oh yeah, they know, especially coaches that have dealt with if they've had like top tier running backs in the past. They do a real good job of keeping you healthy throughout the year.
So and for the record, I'm a big believer that athletes now, Arian, are empowered. I'm not a big believer in yelling at athletes, and my audience is often you're soft. And I'm like, no, you don't own the athlete.
Nah, yeah.
So what are the discussions like? Does Bill come up to you and go, Haas, how you feeling today? Like is it that kind of relationship?
Yeah. Even when I was with Gary Kubiak, he was my head coach for
who likes running the ball.
Yeah, he's a run first offense. Both coaches have been really good about just kind of getting in that dialogue of how you feeling today, you good or I'd like you to take some reps on this today, or I'd like you to do this, just let me know how you feeling. Like they're really because they know at a certain point in a player's career, if they're going to show up on Sunday and play well. And so they don't need as much reps as the other guys. As long as they know the game plan, they'll be okay. And so I'm kind of in that category. I feel like I'm in that category, and my coaches have kind of treated me like that. So, but with that comes a lot of responsibility with knowing the game plan and
absolutely, you got to do your part of the deal.
Exactly.
Marshawn Lynch is he's for all the beatings, he's kind of endured.
Yeah.
Could I make an argument? It's a lot of DNA. Some guys, John Lynch told me he never had a concussion. I'm like, John, you were one of the most violent hitters in the game.
Right.
0 concussions. Marshawn Lynch, maybe DNA, just mental.
I mean, sometimes just injuries happen. You can do whatever you want to do to try to prevent, and then sometimes they just happen. You can't, especially with the physical sport we play. It's just not much you can do about it sometimes. I mean, I think a lot of times a lot of guys get injuries where I feel like they can prevent, but sometimes they just happen.
Are you at the point now where ticky-tack stuff, do you get more or less of that as you get older?
I think I've always kind of been bothered by little stuff here and there because of my style of running. My style of running is straight upright like a sprinter.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of soft tissue injuries. So that's kind of plagued me throughout my career. But I think it's just due to the fact that my style of running is kind of
upright sometimes.
Yeah, it's upright, and I reach a lot, so it kind of it pulls on different things, and everything has to be in perfect alignment, or else something can go out of whack.
I like New England in the game. You're a veteran player now. All the veteran guys I talk to, they like New England. Young guys like Seattle.
Yeah, right.
Who do you like?
I feel like I don't like either one actually, but I'm going to if I had to pick which one is going to win the game, I feel like New England's going to win.
Why?
I like how their defense is playing right now. Number one. Number two, I think that their offense is finally started, kind of hitting on all cylinders. and their running game. I think anytime you can get a run game going, especially in the playoffs, if your run game is going well and your defense is playing well, I think that's a recipe for success.
Think it's a close game, low scoring, high scoring?
I'm like mid-range, in the 20s and 30s. It's not going to be super high, but
when you look at what's become of the Super Bowl, Richard Sherman we bring on the show regularly.
Yeah.
And I always say this about Richard Sherman. You may be uncomfortable with what he says, but he's right.
Yeah, he's right a lot of the time.
I said the other day, he has become almost the voice of the player, which is, do you feel that way?
That he's my voice? No, I feel like he's my voice.
But he's the voice of the player who doesn't want to deal with the media. You're good with it.
Well, I think I say a lot of the things that he says. I think when you're winning and you're winning Super Bowls and stuff, like people are gonna listen a little more. So like, I said a lot of the things that he said.
Yes.
Like before.
When you broke into the league.
Yeah, and it just didn't take it seriously. But like I think when you have athletes that are like prime athletes and the cameras pointed at them, they're like you want them to say certain things and they don't, then that's when people get on edge, and he's exactly the opposite of that, which I love him. He's one of my boys.
Yeah, it's interesting because the new social media, it used to be you could have an opinion and then forget it. Now with social media, you have an opinion and it's, well, here's my opinion on your opinion from the fans.
Absolutely.
Do you stay away from social media because you have strong opinions that a garbage man may listen to and think, you know how lucky you are to play? Because your opinion, like Richard Sherman, is pro-player, anti-corporation. That doesn't sit well with a lot of fans.
A lot of people, yeah.
Like, so how do you deal with the criticism?
I don't like to equate a lot of analogies to rap, but Jay-Z said one of the most brilliant lines I thought, as a successful person. It's like, if you succeed, prepare to be crucified. And, of course, it's an analogy, not literally, but it doesn't matter what you stand for and what you believe in. There's somebody who doesn't. And so they're always going to find that opposition. And it's just like, what are you going to do? You just let them talk, man. Like, it is what it is. Like I have my beliefs. I have, what I stand for. I love my people and my family, and that's what I'm out here banging for. I'm not out here really trying to impress everybody else.
What's J.J. Watt like at practice?
He goes full speed all the time, man. Like, what you see is what you get.
All the time?
All the time.
No day off?
He gets some days off,
Not
too.
a cupcake on Tuesday, chill out, sit a little?
Not sure what he eats, though.
He's a monster.
He is. He's a great player.
Yeah.
Great player.
When you, Arian Foster joining us in the Herd on ESPN Radio, so when you look at your career now as a pro athlete, and you sort of look at some of these young players, Seattle eventually is going to have to pay big money to a couple players.
Right.
And therefore, some of the other players are going to have to go.
Yeah.
Would you take less, knowing that your shelf life as a pro athlete is probably under 12 years?
Mm-hmm.
If you were in Seattle, Arian, with your strong beliefs, and they said, we love you, but we can't pay you, should an athlete stay if the team's great? Should he take a little less?
Personally, no. It depends on that athlete's upbringing and how he feels about his situation currently. It's just like you said, your shelf life as an NFL athlete is very small. And this is your prime earning potential.
Yeah,
I don't think you should cut yourself short to build up the prestige of an organization that doesn't feel that great enough about you to pay you what you're worth in the market.
Yeah.
So you go get your money while you can. I always tell these young cats, man, go get your money. It's a business and you pay for the passion, but man, like, these owners and these coaches, like they don't care. Like, they're not gonna feed your family if you're not winning for them.
Right.
So like, you got to be selfish on the end, and it's no different than a businessman, taking a job, from Facebook, coming from his old organization because it's a great opportunity for him and his family. Like, he's gonna go do what's best for him and his family. And you got to move across country. Like, it's the same thing. People just get so emotionally involved in sports because you're tied to it at such a young age.
Your team name.
Yeah. So you feel like you got to be loyal. Like, nah, man. Like, you got to go get your money.
You got to be loyal to your family.
Yeah, I always tell people, especially young cats that make some mistakes, that don't be more loyal to your past than you are to your future.
That's better than Jay-Z's line, or whatever line you used.
I stole that from somebody else, too.
That's pretty good. Your wife's got a clothing line, Kovu.
Kovu.
You gave me a shirt. Now, when did you start this?
It's not mine. It's all hers, man. She saw that there was a this is like a New England a shirt. So this is for you, man. She's giving this to you.
That's a medium. Show off the gun show.
Yeah, I mean, you can fit in it if you want to, man. I don't think you will. But so what she did was she saw that there was a market for clothing for fashionable clothing for women. And so this is one of the shirts. She has leggings, she has jackets, she has. If you go to kovuklothing.com, you can check it out. But it's there's a really a good demographic of women that like want fashionably.
Affordable,
fashionable gear for women, and she has an awesome shirt that says like cover 2 on it, and it shows the schematics of a cover 2 on it. So it's like it's getting you football literate as well. It's awesome, man.
It's great seeing you, Aaron.
Likewise, brother.
Great seeing you.
All right, my man.
Dan Marino later this hour. The always interesting Greg Cosell will be on our show coming up next hour. The guys at Tommy John, they heard that I hate to wear underwear. Then they sent me a box, and I was like, dude, life-changing. Have you tried Tommy John underwear, by the way? Dude, it's strong. Tommy John's the revolutionary men's brand, taking the underwear industry into the 21st century. I will. That's odd. We'll be exchanging underwear. That's so odd, isn't it?
I probably wear bigger ones than you.
Well, let's not go there.
Want more of the herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
I saw NBA schedules broken, said Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban says, my Mavericks are in the midst of 4 games in 5 nights. It should never happen. There's all sorts of different software that you could use, NBA. It's like when you schedule nurses or doctors in a hospital. You can't work more than X number of hours a day. There's a software that can make that happen. Cuban's one of those guys that is pro player, take care of his employees. But I'll say this, it reminds me, I think a lot of fans sometimes think these guys are millionaires, I can't relate. I don't worry about relating to people. People are interesting and thoughtful and smart and talented, or they're not. I don't really care about relating to people. I think a lot of fans do, and that's fine. I'm just not that way. You can't treat players now like property. And I think Tom Thibodeau in Chicago, Luol Deng led the NBA when he was there for 3 straight years. Jimmy Butler now leads the NBA in minutes. Joakim Noah's falling apart. Derrick Rose was reluctant to go back in. I think it's a pretty clear message with NBA players, with Thibodeau, is that he grinds on them. And people are like, well, why can't you play hard? Dude, it's 82 games, national travel, 20 more playoff games. You got to treat your players right. I remember, we're in Scottsdale, Arizona. I remember a guy named Frank Cush was a coach here at Arizona State. And he was like Bobby Knight for college football. And he was a helmet grabber and a yeller and a screamer. You used to be able to do that. But Jim Boeheim, play the Jim Boeheim bite. Jim Boeheim was talking about Mike Krzyzewski and how Mike Krzyzewski works really, really well and how he treats college players differently than NBA players. And for the record, you have to. But it was interesting listening to Boeheim talk about this, and Coach Krzyzewski, when he deals with NBA guys, it's a different sensibility. Play the bite.
He talks to those guys about whether they want to practice long or short, what they want to focus on, what they think will be the best schedule, what they think will be the best play. In college, kids are learning. You have to tell them what all that is.
But in the NBA now, especially with your star players like Popovich, he doesn't grind the Spurs. He doesn't grind the Spurs. I mean, one of the reasons Pat Riley kind of left the Lakers is, the feeling was Pat kind of grinded guys. Pat would have these long practices, and I think old school coaches like that. But I tell you, I talk to college football coaches now, and they're like, we don't even use our 17 hours. Urban Meyer came on this show. He's like, we've been playing for 22 straight weeks. Our players know all the plays. We just got to get them healthy. I don't need the hours. We need rest. We need fewer games. We don't need more practice hours.
You're in the herd. The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Well, I've been bringing him on for 2 years, and if I had a poll, who you listen to most closely, it would be Greg Cosell. We met for the first time in person.
Which is pretty amazing, isn't it?
You've been on with me 30 times, and we've never met in person.
Right.
You've worked at NFL Films for over 30 years, and I grew up watching Howard Cosell. He was my favorite sportscaster.
Right.
Absolutely always my favorite. And so one day I find your name, and I start following you, and I'm like, this is really heady, smart stuff. So let's go, Greg. We'll start with this. I said I like New England in the game.
Right.
And my takeaway you were driving in was offensive line's okay. 3 undrafted receivers are now their guys. They're okay at tight end. Marshawn's a beast, but I kind of think, and I hate to use the word cheat, New England can cheat up in the box.
Right.
I think Seattle's going to struggle to move the football. What do you see on tape?
I do too, but I think there's a couple of things you have to defend.
Okay.
And let's break it down very simply. You have to defend them in their base offense, so to speak, okay, where you're going to defend the run game with Wilson under center. That's a normal run game that everybody runs.
Okay.
But now you put Wilson in the gun, okay, with the read option element. So what do you have to defend? You've got to defend Wilson, and now you have to defend Lynch. This is where I'm fascinated with what Belichick is going to do. When you play Seattle, you can prevent Wilson from running the ball.
You can.
Sure you can. You can. There's an unblocked defender in the read option, correct? There's a defender who's not blocked.
That's right.
Right.
And who has to make a choice often?
Now, you can prevent Wilson from running by having that defender work outside in and make sure that Wilson hands the ball off. So you can define the read for Russell Wilson. So now you have to defend Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
And I just think that Belichick will see it as, I'd rather have Marshawn Lynch run into a mass of bodies in the middle of the field than have Wilson get on the perimeter clean. So you can define the read, but then you have to defend the runner.
Jamie Collins is a player for New England.
Love Jamie Collins.
This is what I think the game comes down to. He is one of these hybrid guys that Belichick likes. Is he a big element against the zone read?
Well, he could be. It depends how they choose to play it. If they have that unblocked defender work outside in, then Collins is part of the stacked group that has to play inside. The other way you can defend that is you can have that unblocked defender crash hard to defend Lynch and then have a linebacker like Jamie Collins scrape outside to defend Wilson, and then you're theoretically getting a better athlete on the perimeter to defend Wilson. So there's many ways to play this, but at the end of the day, what I don't think Belichick's going to want to have happen, Colin, is to get Wilson on the perimeter clean. So that's the first part. The second major part of this is when it's second and long, third and long, and Wilson is in the gun. Now, their offense, their pass game is not very sophisticated.
It's not.
It's almost elementary by NFL standards. But what do you have to defend? Wilson making his sort of structured improvisational plays. And I know that sounds contradictory, but we've talked about this. So you've got to defend that.
Okay, Belichick historically, he would drop 8 against Peyton.
Right.
Do you think Belichick goes in and says, beat us throwing? We're going to beat us over the top.
Yes and no, and here's what I mean by that. No matter how good your defense is, and they're a predominant man-to-man team, and I don't think they'll change, and I think they will use a spy. But you still don't want to give a quarterback 6-7 seconds in the pocket. It's too hard to cover. Think of that 3rd and 19 play in the NFC Championship game where he hit Baldwin. I timed that. Wilson had 8 seconds in the pocket. You can't let that happen. So there's a balance there. I think they'll try to rush him. I don't think he'll blitz hardly at all.
Bill won't blitz.
I don't think he will. I think he'll play his man, he'll have a spy, and he'll try to force Wilson to stay within the confines of the pocket and make stick throws against man coverage. But you can't play man coverage for 6 seconds. So it's still going to have to happen within 4 seconds.
Is New England or Green Bay's defense better on film?
I think New England's defense is far better on film.
That's what I did my eyes. Okay. Seattle struggled to move the ball against Green Bay for most of the day.
Seattle struggles to move against most because their pass offense is not really a sustaining pass offense. So they run the ball well. You have the improvisational plays by Wilson. And in the context of their overall team, it works. But if you're just separating and isolating, their pass offense is not the kind of pass offense you say, we better stop that or we can't win.
Now, I said earlier, New England faced Luck twice,
Right.
Peyton, all these quarterbacks.
Right, and I heard you say that.
Seattle in division, if you go look, they faced Aaron Rodgers, but is Seattle's defense, though very good?
Well, they gave Peyton Manning a tough time week 2.
So you think that it really is historically relevant?
Well, I don't get into that yet, but I look at the way they play, the personnel they have, and how they're utilized.
Okay.
And I think because of Sherman and Maxwell, who, by the way, is a vastly overlooked player, Byron Maxwell, a really good NFL corner, 6'1", 205, because of what they can do outside the numbers. Because even though their foundational approach is zone, when you're outside the numbers, you're still playing man. And because of Sherman and Maxwell, they can have Earl Thomas be a single high safety, and he's the best in the league, hands down.
Now, he's hurt.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. We don't know that. they can have Chancellor play where he plays, which is essentially 10 yards between the numbers, and he can be that kind of player. If their corners were not that good and they had to help their corners more, then Chancellor would not always be able to play the way he plays, and he wouldn't be the same player.
Okay. Greg Cosell joining us, NFL Films. You look at all this film, and you know, a lot of times I've said my eyeballs say this, and you're like, Colin, that's not what's happening. I felt post-injury, Tom was less reluctant. He never loved the pressure.
Right.
Guard, center, guard.
Right.
Post-surgery, he liked it less. But I've also noticed something else, Greg, in the last month. He made a comment a month ago, I'm not helping my team. I need to run more. And I noticed a couple of times where I thought, Tom wouldn't have run like that 2 years ago.
You're talking about Brady here.
Brady?
Yeah.
No,
well,
am I seeing
No,
things?
it's interesting because watching tape, and I'm sure you've talked with Ron Jaworski too,
Yeah.
you know, Jaws and I would notice watching the film that he was making a few more plays outside the pocket. Not what you'd call mobile, where you look at a true mobile quarterback, but just enough mobility where he got outside the confines of the pocket.
And made the defense now be a little more honest.
And made a good throw. And look, no quarterback, I learned this from Jaws really quick, no quarterback likes to get hit, and no quarterback likes to see guys right in his face as he's throwing the ball. So Brady's not different than any true pocket quarterback. And I wouldn't say this game will be won or lost on Tom Brady making plays outside the pocket, but you never know. In a game where my sense is there won't be a lot of offense, you never know. On a 3rd and 7, you step outside the pocket and hit, you know, Gronk for 8 yards. That's a first down. That moves the chains.
Are you? Do you have a bunch of assignments now? Where does he go next? Where does Greg go next? Can you stay here?
Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to bring back Greg. Is that cool? I want to do that. That feels right to me.
Good. I
and
appreciate
when it feels right,
I'm
you
good.
just do it.
I'm good.
Greg Cosell back on the other end of the herd. Greg Cosell, NFL Films, 30 years breaking it down, gets to join me live for the first time. All right, let's talk about. I saw a stat this morning.
Yeah.
Now, you see stuff like this all the time. This just was revolutionary to me. 11.
Right.
Tom Brady doesn't like to throw to the right. And his completion percentage, Greg, left or right, drops. Therefore, Richard Sherman may never have a ball thrown at him. Now, am I seeing things? Do these numbers belie the truth?
No, because those things get charted. And when you watch Brady, it's funny because when I see him throw to the right sometimes, they can be complete, obviously, but it doesn't seem as if he's quite as precisely accurate. He seems to like to throw the ball from the middle of the field to his left, and he's a lot more comfortable.
Are all quarterbacks like that?
Most quarterbacks have an area that they're not as comfortable.
Okay.
And
so Brady, it's right.
And that's the great thing about the Super Bowl is teams bring in all their scouts, all their personnel people in the 2-week lead-up to do all this tendency research, and that's why you always see something a little different in a Super Bowl. Here, let's think back to the first Patriots Super Bowl. Remember the bullseye approach with Bill Belichick on Marshall Faulk? We all thought that he was going to have to hurry Kurt Warner, make Kurt Warner play faster, get pressure on him. He didn't even worry about that. What did he do? He had the outside defender go after Marshall Faulk and hit him because Belichick correctly decided that Faulk was the key to the offense and not Kurt Warner. And it worked, as we all know, because they won. But Belichick will always have something like that. I wish I knew what it was so I could sound real smart.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Pete Carroll's got a little of that in him as well.
Both love good corners. There's a philosophy.
Yes.
There's a philosophy in the NFL I want you to talk about. And by the way, you could argue these teams have the best 2 corner tandems. Seattle clearly does.
Right.
Give me the philosophy in the NFL of why corners. Al Davis used to argue, Greg, it's more important than the quarterback. Now, it probably isn't today.
Well,
what is the philosophy?
The philosophy is this. If you have corners that can match up on the outside, and I don't want people to immediately say, well, Seattle plays zone. Yes, they do, but outside the numbers, it's still man-to-man. So if you have corners that can match up on the outside, that means you can squeeze the field in the middle, Colin, and essentially have 9 defenders playing the middle of the field. And in the NFL, the hardest throws are outside, particularly when you start getting at the intermediate levels. Anybody can throw it 4 yards to the outside, but once you start getting 13, 14, deep comebacks, 18, those are hard NFL throws that not a lot of quarterbacks can make consistently. So if you have corners that can take away those throws, force the ball to be thrown in the middle where you have more defenders. This is what we were talking about with Cam Chancellor. It allows Cam Chancellor to be who he is. If Cam Chancellor had to play deep safety on a regular basis, we wouldn't be discussing Cam Chancellor the way we are now.
Russell Wilson has a remarkable ability not to turn the ball over. That's what I think.
Right.
You brought up an interesting stat during the break.
Well, he's fumbled more than any quarterback in the NFL. It's just the fact that right. It's just the fact that the Seahawks recovered every single one of them, so they were not turnovers.
He fumbled more than anybody. They didn't lose one.
They didn't lose one fumble.
So when you watch now, because I believe in this game, turnovers could be essential. When he fumbles, is it zone read stuff?
No, he fumbles at times in the pocket when he's trying to. See, the thing is, when you make the game random, good things don't always happen. Now, Wilson's the best in the league at being a sort of improvisational quarterback, and I've called it structured improvisation. But as good as that is, it still makes the play random. It's still not a structured play.
Right.
So 100% of the time, good things don't happen. Sometimes bad things can happen. That's why it's random and arbitrary.
Right.
So while you love exactly what Wilson does, and I think he's the best at that, hands down, you still have to be careful at times, and he has fumbled the ball. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in the red zone. I did make the point that I thought Bill Belichick might not blitz, maybe at all, but the red zone changes everything. Arizona, for instance, has blitzed relentlessly against Russell Wilson in the red zone.
And succeeded.
And they've succeeded doing that. Now, they're a blitz-based team.
Yeah.
The Patriots are not that way foundationally, but still, Bill Belichick's always had a tendency to increase the pressure in the red zone.
Greg Cosell, 30 years NFL films, the Herd on ESPN Radio. So you break down film, and you're not a game predictor, but you'll say, this is what the film says. My eyeballs say New England's going to hold Seattle to field goals, and Seattle will mostly hold New England to field goals, but I like New England converting a few more red zone opportunities. I like New England.
Right.
You look at the film, what do you think happens?
Well, I think, again, it's always hard to predict turnovers. It's hard to predict special teams. I think there will be, for want of a better term, trick plays, whether it's Belichick with his formations, whether it's Pete Carroll coming up with something. I think this game will have those kinds of plays. Because I think normal offense in this game is not going to sustain for either team. There's not going to be a lot of 12-play drives in this game. Okay? And it's hard to create explosive plays against these defenses. Seattle gives up very few explosive plays, and New England's offense is really not built on explosive plays.
Not vertically great.
No. So I don't think there's going to be, Colin, a lot of 12-play, 80-yard drives in this game. So without some other things happening, I don't think you'll see consistent, sustaining offense. This, to me, has an old-school feel to it. I don't think we're looking at one of these new age 34-31 games.
I think it's 23-17. That's what I felt like all week.
Well, again, because with social media, of course, I picked the game, so I can't, change my pick. But you could switch either team here. I've said Seattle 23, New England 20, but I could say New England 23, Seattle 20, and to me the game's exactly the same.
It's funny, Greg, because it feels like to me that you really do, more than usual sense, you kind of know what the game will look like.
I feel, well, Seattle to me is, and again, Pete Carroll, we know Belichick can make some changes. Yes. He's done that. That's his history. Pete Carroll, I don't feel like I have a strong enough history to know that, but I think Pete does like some, for want of the better term, trickeration, different kinds of plays. I don't know how those will play out. But beyond that, Seattle, to me, is a pretty structured team. They don't offensively, you know what they're going to do.
Yes.
Now you've got to stop it, but you know what they're going to do. Defensively, you pretty much know what you're playing against. This is not like a Rex Ryan defense where you're going to see 10 different designer blitzes that you haven't seen all year. They play a certain way. I've talked with Dan Quinn about this. They repeat, and they do it better maybe than anybody in the league, but you know what you're going to get.
Yeah, Pete always felt at USC, less they got to think, faster they are.
Right.
What you're basically saying is, Pete, is I'll find the athletes. We're gonna take the clutter out, move fast.
And the one guy we haven't talked about, and he's the fascinating guy to me, is Gronkowski. Because how will Seattle play if they play zone? See, at some point in zone, you still have to match up somewhere. Now, There's certain formations on film I've noticed where Seattle has played man-to-man against, okay? And without getting into the hardcore X's and O's, you can make them play some more man, and then the question becomes, is it Cam Chancellor on Gronk? Is it KJ Wright, the linebacker, on Gronk? And, you know, everybody thinks, hey, Chancellor, he's a big guy, but he's still 40 pounds less than Gronk, believe it or not. So, you know, it's still not necessary. It's as good a matchup as you're going to get for a safety in the NFL, but it may not still be a great matchup.
Absolute pleasure. This was special.
I appreciate it,
For
Colin.
me,
Thank you.
I am a kid and you're the candy. It's like I just sat there. That's a weird analogy. I need to go to the dentist. But that was great for me. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Colin. Really appreciate it.
What is that music you're playing? You know, my staff needs it. They're just odd.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast.